We're talking about the role of men, the role of women, and is there a definition of masculinity? And, Imran, you've been listening to a lot of this patiently. I want to hear from you.
I think it's really hard to raise children. It's really hard to give them the values that you want, to give them the resilience that they need to get through a life in which there will be lots of people giving them bad information and bad ideas. And I think today's really clarified for a lot of the parents who'll be watching, who do they want to influence their kids? Well, first of all, I think raising kids is a parent's job, and parents need to take an active role in it. You saw Zach earlier on, and it's clear that he's been given strong values, so he's got some of that resilience. But he's coming up into years in which he'll be much more influenced, not just by his parents, but by people around him, and by algorithms which are feeding him information. And they need to be really cognizant. Parents need to think really hard about who's winning in those algorithms, because the truth is, all those positive voices about masculinity, about fatherhood, about being a good adult, about having self-worth, they're not being fed to young people. Voices like Rollo's are, like Andrew Tate's. And what they're teaching them is that the system is gamed against them. They're never going to win. And so they need to take an aggressive stance themselves. And that's fundamentally dangerous, because no one wins a zero-sum game where men are pitted against women. Actually, a real relationship is something in which there's vulnerability, honesty, and where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
I always say to parents, you're not going to be the only voice in your child's ear, so you damn sure better be the best voice in your child's ear. And we don't want our kids raised by social media. You're talking about the algorithm is geared to give them the sensational, give them the controversial. Why are we just defaulting to letting our kids be programmed by some algorithm? That's crazy.
But also, why are the people programming those algorithms deliberately choosing to amplify the most controversial, the most extreme views?
You know the answer to that
because
question.
It makes them money.
Of
right?
course.
And so we do, look, at the moment, we have an unregulated Wild West social media system that is damaging the mental health of our young girls. It's damaging the life prospects of our young men by feeding voices like Rollo's, like Andrew Tate's into their ears, instead of voices which say, actually, to be a man, just try and be decent to other people. Treat others as you would want them to be treated yourself.
Why are we defaulting to the internet for that? The parents need to be talking to their kids about that.
Devices are going...
They do both.
Look, devices are dangerous, but there are phases in children's development. So until the age of 14, you're mainly being socialized by your parents. 14 to 24, the transition to adulthood, you're increasingly it's peer groups. And it's that phase, which Zach is going into now, in which his parents' voices become less relevant to his development. He becomes a social creature. And then that's when predators get involved. Predators who will feed them lies and misinformation about life, about women, hatred, misogyny. And that's a really critical phase in which you're monitoring what your kids are looking at. Because if you don't know what TikTok is, you are not able to know what your kids are consuming.
That's because we are allowing a generation to watch people live their lives instead of living their own lives. And that's a problem. Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.